Time Out with Tim O.
Open up your mind and let me in. Open up your mind and let me in. Open up your mind and let me in.
Hello, welcome to Time Out with Tim O. I'm your host, Tim Owens. As always, very grateful, and I mean very grateful to be here today. I want to dive into a serious subject. I want to talk about demons. You heard me correctly, demons. For some reason, I've been trying to make this video for a while. I've had audio problems, video problems, array of technical issues that has prevented me from doing so. But through a lot of fasting and prayer, I believe that I'm finally ready and I'm finally there. So a lot of you guys have heard about demons from movies, television, the Bible, church, a lot of different things, right? But a lot of people really won't touch it. They'll just barely graze it, but they won't actually touch it and go in depth. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a 3-part video. This is going to be part 1. I'm going to do 2 introductory videos to where you can get an understanding of where I'm going. Hopefully, you have a deeper understanding by the second video, and the third video will give you some resolutions. So you guys know that a lot of people who battle addictions and family problems and generational curses and different things, someone always said it never fails. Oh, I guess his demons got the best of him. He was battling his demons and they just overtook him. This is one thing though. What if that person had came to you and said, hey, you know what? I think I'm battling demons, man. Can you help me out? I don't know what to do. Most people will say, hey, man, you're crazy. Get away from me. I don't want to hear any of that. But that doesn't help anything. That attitude does not make demons not real. So I'm going to read something really quick before I show the videos. That way I can stay on point here. Don't get too far off. So the Bible tells us that demons are fallen angels who joined Satan in a rebellion against God and who were defeated and cast out of heaven along with Satan. Demons continue to serve the devil in his attempt to lead the world away from God and into sin. Jesus will ultimately banish Satan and his demons into the eternal fire. All right. So, a little bit of an intro there. I'm going to play the first video. The gentleman is going to explain what they are. The second video is going to be a little bit more in-depth. And I'll have some, minimal commentary after the fact. But I'm going to get more in-depth in this part 2 video. And in part 3, I'm going to bring it on home. Here we go.
Like angels, demons play a huge role in modern pop culture, playing both the role of hero and villain in many popular shows, books, and movies. And like angels, we have a tendency to misunderstand them as a result. So rather than letting culture tell us what we should believe about them, let's see what Scripture has to say about these supernatural beings. Demons, like angels, are among us and active in this world. In fact, they are of the same nature as angels. But at some point in history, they rebelled against God. And chief among them is one named Satan, who led the rebellion and tempted the first humans to sin. And like all demons, his desire is to steal and kill and destroy, and he works in opposition to God's plans and purposes in this world. And if he were able, he would surely overthrow them. But he can't. Because despite what we might have picked up from books and movies, Satan's not God's opposite, and he's not God's equal. He and his demons are limited by their nature as created beings and by God's authority over them. And when we read that Satan is a roaring lion in Scripture, we need to remember that he is ultimately a caged one. He is dangerous and deadly, and he and his followers have great influence and power in the world, but they have been and will be defeated. So while we should respect and avoid them, Christians don't need to fear them because we know that their fate is sealed. We know, and they know likewise, what awaits them. The lake of fire, which was first created for them, where they will be judged by Jesus for their rebellion for eternity.
So we've been learning about spiritual beings in the Bible, and I still have a lot of questions about the bad ones.
Well, great. Let's talk about the Satan and demons in the story of the Bible. So let's start in the beginning. In Genesis 1, God creates a beautiful, ordered reality out of darkness and disorder so that life can flourish. He appoints humans as his representatives to rule over all of it, and 7 times God calls it good.
Yeah, I experience that kind of goodness often in the world, in things like beauty and truth, love and generosity.
But in Genesis 3, we meet a creature who's in a state of rebellion against his creator. We're not told yet why or how he rebels, but he's on a mission to ruin God's good world for other creatures.
This thing is trouble.
Yeah, this creature is the Bible's first portrait of evil. It distorts what God has purposed for good, ruining and dragging creation back into darkness and disorder.
So the humans join the spiritual rebel, which leads them back into chaos and death.
And from this point on, the human rebellion is interwoven with a spiritual rebellion. And the biblical story shows how this happens over and over again.
Okay, but wait, we're getting all this from a slithering snake?
Well, there are clues in the story that it's more than just a snake. Remember, Eden is a high place where the earth and its creatures overlap with heaven and its creatures.
So this snake could be a spiritual being.
Well, Genesis 3 points in that direction, and then later biblical authors fill in the picture. Like when the prophet Isaiah has a vision of God's heavenly throne room, he's surrounded and being praised by the spiritual beings.
Yeah, these are the cherubim around God's throne.
But when Isaiah sees these creatures, he describes them as seraphim, which in Hebrew means snake.
So the snake is like a former staff member in God's throne room. So why is he talking to the humans?
Well, the prophet Ezekiel understood this figure as a spiritual rebel who didn't want to live under God's wisdom and authority. He wanted to be God.
All right, that's the same temptation the snake puts before Adam and Eve.
Exactly. He says they could rule the world like God, but by their own wisdom.
So they're all kicked out of the garden.
Yeah, God says this rebel will now crawl on its belly.
Where does it go after this?
Well, the biblical authors offer subtle clues where this being is at work behind the scenes, animating division and hatred between humans. They also use a variety of images to describe this being. It's a snake, or a sea dragon, or a dark desert creature, or the king of death in the grave. He's also given many titles, like Tempter, or the Evil One, or the Devil, which in Greek means the slanderer.
But his name is Satan, right?
Actually, no. Satan is not a name. It's another one of these titles, which is why in Hebrew it has the word the in front of it. The Satan means the adversary, because he isn't for anything, rather he's anti-everything, working through lies to drag us back into darkness and disorder.
That's intense. Now, what about these other spiritual rebels in the Bible called demons? What are they all about?
Okay, so remember the concept of God's heavenly staff team, the divine council, or the sons of God. In the Hebrew scriptures, we're told that some of these rebelled too.
When did that happen?
Multiple times, actually. After the snake comes the rebellion of the sons of God in Genesis 6. We're told that they have sex with women who then give birth to violent warrior giants.
Oh, right, the Nephilim. These are probably the strangest characters in the whole Bible.
Well, strange from your point of view, but ancient readers knew exactly what was going on. The ancient kingdoms around Israel claimed to be founded and protected by giant warrior kings who were part human, part God, and filled with divine wisdom.
I see. So the biblical authors are saying, hey, those warrior kings, they shouldn't be honored.
Right. In this story, they're portrayed as human rebels who are captive to spiritual evil, spreading their violence in God's good world.
Yeah, and one of those kings in Genesis 10 goes on to build the city of Babylon.
Yes, Nimrod, whose name sounds like the Hebrew word for rebel. And his kingdom leads to the next rebellion, where humans exalt themselves in Babylon.
But God scatters that rebellion.
And when Moses in Deuteronomy looks back at that story, he says that's the moment when God handed over the nations to worship the rebel host of heaven, the gods of money, sex, and military power. Moses is the first one to call them demons, that is, lesser spiritual beings.
So demons are spiritual forces at work behind corrupt human power structures.
Yes, but in the Bible, they also work on the personal level, animating and exploiting humanity's greed and selfishness, as well as the weakness of our mortal bodies. In the Bible, spiritual evil is at work in anything that drags God's good creation back into chaos, darkness, and death.
So this is why when Jesus arrives on the scene, he said his primary enemy is not human.
Right. Jesus and his first followers viewed all the pain and suffering in God's good world as a sign of its captivity to death and spiritual evil.
But they didn't think this was the end of the story.
Right. Jesus knew that the only way out of this cosmic ruin is to overcome evil and death itself, even if it costs him everything.
You just watched a video in our Spiritual Being series. This one was on the Satan and demons.
All right, we are back. I hope you guys enjoyed the 2 videos. A lot of information there. I didn't mean to scare anyone. If I did, I apologize. Just make sure you attend church on Sunday and maybe a Bible study on a Thursday night that'll help bring some peace to your spirit and some calmness to your heart. But as always, thank you guys for watching my videos and sharing and subscribing to my channel. As I always say, happy people do not cause problems. Peace.
Right. If everybody winning, who's losing? I'm trying to make it make sense. It's like it's so confused. I see the pain in your eyes from all the lonely nights. I swear I know how I feel. It just don't feel right.